was younger, I used to watch, in horror, as my mother would inject her body with insulin or prick her finger in order to test her blood sugar. I now know that she did this because she has type 1 diabetes, a chronic condition in which the pancreas produces little or no insulin. Now, insulin regulates blood sugar by allowing cells to use sugar to produce energy. Energy we use to move, to talk, to think, and even to breathe. And everyone needs it, not just type 1 diabetics. Every single person relies upon it, but whereas a person without type 1 diabetes can produce insulin on their own, a person with it cannot. Therefore, simple tasks such as breathing are at risk. And type 2 diabetes is different from type 1 because type 1 is not due to lifestyle choices. So they cannot control whether they get this disease or not, which makes insulin a necessity for type 1 diabetics. Now, when I was little, I didn't understand this, so I was just scared of shots and blood, and I didn't understand that for my mom, testing and regulating her blood sugar were the easy parts of being a type 1 diabetic. The most burdensome aspect is the high cost of this life-saving drug. According to Beyond Type 1, insulin is the 6th most expensive liquid on Earth. It's more expensive than gold. Fortunately for my mom, she worked at a school system which provided her with quality health insurance because individual health insurance companies wouldn't insure her an individual policy. And even with this insurance, which helped to defray the cost, the copay was still really expensive. Today, my mom is in a different financial situation, so the weight isn't quite as heavy on her shoulders, but that doesn't mean the financial burden for paying for insulin is gone. It's still a daily, lifelong hardship. And rich or poor, the cost is still a tough pill to swallow. Watching my mother go through this my whole life led me to wonder, how do people who aren't as well off as my family manage to afford the insanely high price of insulin? Well, the short story is, some don't. According to a 2017 article by David M. Treadquist of the Washington Post, a single vial of insulin can cost around $300 with insurance. And on average, a type 1 diabetic goes through 2 to 3 vials of insulin each month, which can cost around $600 to $900 every single month for a basic necessity. So someone working the average minimum wage in America would have to work 82 hours each month just to afford 2 vials of insulin. And that's assuming they have insurance. And don't forget, this is a chronic condition. So they're not just going to be paying for insulin once or twice. They're going to be paying for insulin their entire lives. That's a lot of money over time. Because of these high costs, some type 1 diabetics are having to dip into their saving accounts or go to other countries to buy insulin that's much cheaper. Many are even having to ration their insulin, which means taking less than the prescribed amount. This can lead to diabetic ketoacidosis, which in turn can lead to blindness, kidney failure, and even death. Yet according to a statistic from healthday.com, as many as 1 in 4 type 1 diabetics ration their insulin because they can't afford the cost. So it seems to me that type 1 diabetics are being forced to choose between working kidneys and providing food for their families. There are only 3 main insulin manufacturers in America, which raises the cost because there's no competition. If there are more generic brands on the market, the prices would be lower. But these insulin manufacturers are paying other companies to stay off the market. It's clear to me that insulin manufacturers setting prices so high and paying other companies to stay away so they can continue to raise the price are just profiting off the deaths of type 1 diabetics. After learning about this, I wanted to fix everything, to just stop the struggling. I wondered why we couldn't just cap the price of insulin. I mean, simple, right? Apparently it's not. Since 2019, Colorado has capped the price of insulin to only $100 per month. And a few other states have been effective in similar things, but most bills haven't gotten anywhere. So how do we lower the cost? Well, first off, more people need to be aware of just how serious this situation is. The more people who know about the situation and speak up, the more pressure is put on the government to make reforms and on insulin manufacturers to lower the cost. We all need to speak up and demand reforms on the regulatory and legal processes in order to make it easier for generic brands to enter the market. And I know every single person listening to this has known someone at one point in their life who's been affected by the high cost of medicine in America, whether it be from insulin, EpiPens, asthma medications, or some other expensive medicine in America. Either way, drug prices in America are crippling our bank accounts. For the sake of type 1 diabetics like my mom, the price needs to be lowered. And everybody hearing this has the ability to make a difference, whether it be from forming an advocacy group, writing to a local congressman, or just by simply educating others. But ultimately, it is up to us to make a difference in the millions of type 1 diabetics suffering from the high cost of insulin in America. Thank you.